So we have the session on specifically this topic. How do we manage relationships in the professional context, in the workplace? So over several weeks and months that we have been together, we have spoken in general and in various different contexts. I thought today, specifically contextualizing workplace and the professional setting may help those of you who are moving on to work in the next few months. So I thought, what best than learn from people who are working in the industry. So we have a very diverse panel today. So first I would like, so I'll just introduce and then I'll request them to introduce themselves for 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll start the session. I have your questions with me. So in between, I'll just ask these questions. Whoever wants to answer can respond. Okay, so Devika, hi, thank you for accepting. If you can introduce yourself briefly.
Good afternoon, thank you for having me.
If you can introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll go on to Gopal, and then Arul, and then we can start the session.
Sure. Yeah, thanks Vijay for having me, and good afternoon to all of you. My name is Devika Dharmaraj. I'm an HR professional. I've been in HR all my life for my sins. About a year ago, I got out of operational HR and I'm working more in the area of mental health, specifically for the corporate space, in the last year and a half or so. I'm a trained instructor in mental health first aid. And the other area of interest, which I'm mentioning here only because of the subject relationship management, is a nonviolent communication. It's something that I've been interested in for about 15 years now, and have gone through several, iterations, so to speak, of nonviolent communication. So that's why I'm bringing it up, is because it's a very integral part of relationships. That's it. I have about 28 years of experience, working experience. I worked across industries, manufacturing, IT, ITES, service sector, the NGO sector as well. So there's a whole gamut of industries and sectors that I have had some experience in. Okay? All right, that's it about me. Thank you.
Hi, this is Gopal here, and very happy to join. Hope you and family are safe in this time, and I think it's great that you all have taken this time out to join and learn. Use this time to develop your skills. Very nice. About me, I'm now working in the IT industry, in this industry for the past 15 years. So the same industry. In fact, in the current organization, I'm in the same team for 13 years. So it's a wonderful opportunity for me to come and share my thoughts with you all, because you're all going to step into the corporate life after this campus. So definitely you'll miss the campus, but definitely corporate is a more exciting place. So happy to be here and share my thoughts.
Okay. So my name is Arul, and I run an organization called People First. Right out of college, about 25 years back, in about 6 to 8 months, I founded the company, and I'm still running it. Basically, we are into talent hiring, coaching, training, education services, etc. So this topic is something that all of us are looking at, either formally or informally, every day, because there's a lot of relationship from a team perspective, from a client perspective, or when I go to other organizations, or with many different formats. It's basically the communication, it's the relationships that come in. So maybe I'll just begin very, very briefly, and then I'm a person who I contribute better if it's a dialogue, or if I know exactly what you guys are looking at. When we talk about relationship and when we talk about work context, at the very first instance, in a very simple way, there is not much of a difference in how I relate to somebody and how I relate to the workplace. That's the very first start point. One is communicating, one is relating. But then when it comes to work, there are different aspects of the work that come in, and that's when the same relationship takes different turns. Now, so for example, you're talking, let's say you onboard into an organization along with somebody else, and you're sitting and talking, and suddenly, let us say you're put on some project and you're supposed to work together, you're supposed to deliver something together. Now suddenly the whole conversation, which was friendly for informal chit chat, now moves into something that you need to converse and get some work done from each other, some follow-ups and all that. Now the flavor becomes different, because the intent of communication or intent of relationship slightly shifts to teamwork, to being productive, to etc. on a work context. But even at that level, there is always another relationship that happens when one takes the mug and goes to the coffee shop, etc., etc. So I'll just speak for a minute and then we'll open for. I know I'll go directly into the questions. So I think relationship in a corporate or whatsoever, in a workplace, is pretty much the same. We are all human beings. It only starts taking different turns based on the different roles that we play or the purpose of the relationship at that moment. Now, to broadly categorize what comes to the top of mind first, a relationship could be transactional, which means with reference to a particular work coordination, or it can be developmental. So for example, if like Devika said, she was in HR, so if it's a HR who is having a conversation with somebody from the functional, now the role could be largely different. The role could be in terms of giving a feedback, or answering a query, etc. So based on all the different roles that we play, the relationship starts taking different turns, because at each and every point, one is representing the organization, one is representing the function, one is representing the role, and one is representing, let's say, oneself as an individual. So if Hari and Govind have joined together in an organization, Hari is HR, Govind, let's say, is in a function. Now, in the beginning, it's a general conversation, but as they start playing different roles, they also represent the function, the department, the organization, or the particular project and task, and that's when the role relationship starts taking different turns. The other flavor to keep is, when it comes to a friendship, there are hardly any boundaries needed. When it comes to work, it's not a boundary, but there are certain things that one is privy to and the other may or may not know, kind of a thing. So those permutations and combinations come in play. The error that sometimes people do in an organization or in the workplaces, sometimes they start wearing masks. One of the biggest problem in relationship in organization, it was always there, but more so today, is the aspect of visibility. Every workplace they talk about, is your work visible? Are you making yourself visible? Now, to do that, there is there's something that one does at work, and then something that somebody starts projecting that one is doing. That's when the relationship gets a little bit difficult, because if there is too much of projection vis-a-vis what is really being done, then the mask gets stronger, and then one needs to remember what are the different, you don't necessarily remember, because if you worn the mask too much, then that becomes how you interact. So those are some of the complications that come in, and then question comes, where do you draw the boundary or the other? So with that as a very, very brief start point, and when it comes to relationship with reference to development, mentoring, formally and informally, the context becomes wholly different. So with that, maybe Vijay or somebody else, if you could help me with specific questions that I could actually contribute into, I'll be happy.
Thanks, Arul. You head an organization, and I know that the organization is extremely ethical, and the work culture is very, very positive. It's a strong work culture. You give a lot of emphasis on that. So we'll take the first question in relation to that, Uday's question. When leading a team, what would be the best way to create a work culture where everyone is comfortable to express themselves, everyone is having fun, but are super focused when required? How friendly can one get with the team to have that fine balance of fun and seriousness? If things are not going in the intended direction, any tips about keeping the positive attitude up in everybody?
Yeah, okay. So that's one question and has a bunch of, 10 different questions inside it. So I will try and go into that. Uh, let's say the teamwork or the team relationship is sometimes one of the most complex phenomenon to move into. So let's say two people are interacting and there is a whole bunch of conversation that happens between them, formally or informally. So let me look at this from different perspectives. Say each individual has a certain strength or has a certain nature. So let me begin with nature. Say each individual has a certain nature. Say somebody is quite emotional, and they really like to contribute, they really like to care, they really like to listen, they really like to give a space for another person. Let's say the other person in the team is more task oriented. This person wants to really, when the task is given, jump at it, would not necessarily bother about whether the others are comfortable or not. Now, the natures of these two people, there's nothing right wrong about it. It depends on how one has grown, the priorities that one has, etc. But at different points of times, these natures would work well together and these natures would rub off each other. Okay. Now, for example, if the boss is more a warm type, then the person with the more emotional care would gel well in the team, will succeed well in the team. So when we look at team dynamics, the nature of the individuals counts. Sometimes it enables the team togetherness. Sometimes you rub off each other on the wrong side. Okay. Now, the other aspect to really look at, when we really want to look at how do you have a good functional team, I'll come to the aspect of fun and thing a little bit later, is the aspect of strengths. Each one is coming from a certain strength. Like, so for example, there was a girl who joined us fresh from college a couple of months back, in the mid of last year. She really brought some strengths, like she was in the culturals and all that stuff. So the moment she joined in, she was inherently bringing strengths of drive, initiative and all that. So we moved into a project. So one of the ways of looking at a good oiled team is when people are allowed to use their strengths. And here is when certain difficulties comes. We all talk only about the nice things, but also the challenges happen. There could be comparisons, that could be somebody who's more articulate about what the talent that they have. Somebody is not so articulate and thus they miss opportunities. So this again creates opportunities for synergy and opportunities for friction. Okay. The other is obviously, task at hand and what is your competencies. The fun aspect at work, at this point of time in most of the organizations see no challenge. In general, I think, unless you have a different boss, in general, organizations are allowing that level of, fun or joyfulness at work. It's far more different, than what I've seen earlier. Most of my clients, I've seen that, when I walk into the premises, there's enough of fun from what I can see. So as far as you're able to do your work well, as far as you are not, sometimes people do this error, you work very hard and then you want to have a coffee break. You go and lug another person who at that time is concentrating, and that's when some difficulties arise. But beyond that, I think there's a lot of scope for fun today and there's a lot of scope for balancing it.
Devika, would you want to add on to this? Do you want to say anything for this question on how to build a team culture, an organization culture? Because you also have been part of building an organization.
Typically, when you're saying how do we get things to work as well as have fun, organizations look at fun second, right? So it's not a priority for them. It's really the culture of the place that makes that fun happen. So if there are some things I think that are foundational to any culture being positive, which is openness, trust, clear communication. If these things are there in the culture of the organization and in how people relate to each other and communicate with each other, then friction will be less and the fun component happens by itself. You don't have to work it. Yeah, that's one part of it. The other part of it is that very often, and especially in the manufacturing sector, I don't know how many of the participants of this call are going into manufacturing later, especially in the manufacturing sector, you'll find a big generation gap, okay, between the senior management middle management and junior management, and the staff themselves. Very often staff and workmen and senior management are from and sometimes the culture in those organizations, while it's fairly open, may not be as, what shall I say, contemporary as people who join fresh would expect. Yeah. So that's something that you need to keep in mind, that there would be a generational gap as well in organizations. So what I think is fun, you may not think is fun, yeah? And vice versa.
Okay, I'll also make some quick thoughts, add to what Dev and Devika had mentioned. With regard to creating a team culture, as I told you, I come from IT industry. So like Devika mentioned, industry, there may be some differences. IT industry in general, if you look at it, I think there's not much of a generation age difference. And I have 9 people reporting into me. So as a boss, what I ensure is that one thing, every person should look forward to come to work every day. That is one thing which I really keep in my mind. They should not say that, no, okay, today I have to go to office. So I make sure that I create a culture that motivates people to come to work. That's the first thing I do. Second, the most potent weapon to ensure good this thing is humor. So we use a lot of humor within the team. For example, if we get a stinker mail from leadership, we put memes immediately and reply to it within the team. So that creates a very sort of brings down the panic this thing and makes like this thing. So second thing is humor. Third thing is I also give them space. Like if you look at my lunch team and is different from my team, so I don't go with lunch with my reportees. So I allow them to go with their friends, and I have a different lunch team. So I give the space also for them to operate. So these are some of the small things that we do to ensure that we have a good culture. Now the bottom line, if you look at it, is that in a professional organization, any organization, everybody is aware of the goals. So the team is aware of what needs to be done. So that is very clear. So as a leader, I also make it sure that this is what we need to deliver this year. This is our goal. So that is taken for granted. Now, we only need to ensure that we work as a team to achieve this goal. And as a leader, I ensure that I create an environment that helps them, exceed their goals. So there's a question from Ayush. So the question is, what are the, Arul, this is for you, Arul. You can take this up. What are the do's and don'ts to build a strong foundation of relationship in workplace? So what are the do's and don'ts that you recommend from a relationship perspective, especially in the initial 30 days? So I join a new company, so how should I sort of?
So let me take it in the first 30 days first, whether you're a newcomer or, experienced person. I think, I'll even compare it with marriage, it's in a way, it's all the same because you are getting to understand each other in the first place. The first thing that I would say is, really be yourself. And by that, what I mean is, in the first probable opportunities, and I'm just parking it under these things: your strength, your nature, your values, and your skills. So we have to have some way of making sense of what we are speaking. So everybody has a nature. So as I said, somebody could be more emotional, somebody could be more task focused, etc., etc. Somebody can have a natural strength. So for example, my wife's natural strength is she always brings a team together. My natural strength is, one of my natural strengths is if there's a very difficult moment, I make it very light. So all of us have some natural strengths. Values is certain ethics and values that I really like. So for example, for me, it's freedom. I function well when freedom is given to me. If freedom is not there, I really struggle inside. The fourth is, skills and, either technical or otherwise, so to say. So these are 4 things to really hold a conversation around this topic. So I would say the first 30 days, definitely try and see how much of your nature, values, strengths, and skills you can bring it out, express. And the reason I'm saying is the first impressions are getting formed. Now, if people really, and it's an opportunity to understand, if people really get to know that, hey, these are the things that this person has, then there's an opportunity to do something around it. I don't know exactly on the answer for don'ts. What I would say is do not necessarily form cliques too soon, comfort, this person is from my community, this person is from my village. So all kinds of comfort zone cliques. It may be good to avoid forming it too early so that you're really intermingling, getting to know people, getting to know the organization. In general, I've seen both in my organization and other ways that these things really work well. From a personal perspective, I mean, though it's not necessarily what everybody believes, from a personal perspective, don't put on masks too much, don't camouflage things too much, because then you actually run in trouble because you have over projected something that you're really not, and thus you get into trouble. One more point here is it is perfectly okay to say development points right at the beginning. Let's say something is asked for you and you say, this I'm good at, this I want training or somebody to mentor me is good. So these are the first thought points on the question.
Okay, thanks, Arul. Arul, if you're someone obeying orders and you've just joined a team and you have a situation which is against your morals, can you disobey orders which might harm your future?
Yeah, you can, and you should know how to do it very effectively. You know, so I think the question is worded very strongly. Can you disobey orders? See, that even shows the mindset that one carries as an individual. See, in organization, very rarely those things are practiced. You know, even in very traditional organizations, yeah, you will have it in very small firms, perhaps, but bosses are quite strong, you know, sometimes, and they do demand that you better follow what I'm saying. Those are definitely there. If you want to counter, I think it's legitimately okay, but there are ways of countering. You know, if you lock horns, you run in trouble. If you blame, you run in trouble. If you speak ill, you run in trouble. But certainly, I think in a good number of organizations, one can put one point saying that, yes, but can we consider this? But one in the beginning needs to be fairly comfortable when those points are not taken. But definitely voicing one's opinion or voicing something that you feel is unethical or not so value in an appropriate way. Again, I'm saying, you know, if you blame, if you lock horns, you run in trouble. But if you make a statement in a neutral way as your point of view, but still, you know, in the beginning, if the organization has not heard you in the first place, be willing to support them till there's a chance for you to, you know, make some headway. I think it's definitely encouraged to do that is what I would say.
So my question is for Arul sir. Hello,
yes,
can you hear me?
Very much.
Yes, thank you for all the insights. You keep mentioning you keep bringing up this word called projections. So you keep talking about how we are not supposed to project more than what we are doing, or I'm really not getting the point around projections, because in my experience, whenever I've worked in teams, I've not worked in a industrial or organizational place, but whenever I worked in say research teams, what really mattered for the team leader as such was that you do the work. And I used to see this thing that people who can sell themselves or their work more usually get more credit for it. So
yeah, so that's exactly what I mean. Those who can sell their work more is what I mean by projections. You know, that I just used a different term for that. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Is that a bad thing in an organization? And another, my question would be that I'm the kind of person who cannot do that. Cannot my work as such. I'll do my work, but I won't know how to put it across to show that, okay, this has been the amount of work that I've done. So in those cases where in an organization where selling your work is what matters, how can we how can we handle such teams?
Okay. So I'll answer this question because in my personal view, there are several organizations where this has become the biggest difficulty, even in the kind of organizations you're talking about, for example, research organizations. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it puts it into difficulty. So there's actually a certain competency that you have at work, and then you are either selling, projecting, or visible. Making things visible, absolutely no problem. It's perfect. Okay. Even selling or projecting is absolutely no problem. But when the focus shifts to that, you know, rather than the content of the work, the mastery of the work, when the focus shifts largely to selling, projection, then what becomes really more important is the PowerPoints, is the slides, is those, you know, things that you're able to capture to the right people, so to say. But unfortunately, there are many organizations who have started functioning like that. Okay. So the response to what you're asking, I also have the same difficulty. I, for 25 years, don't like, and I think I have been lucky enough to escape that trap, even, for me to get business from clients and all that stuff. But what I have recognized, in this process is that if I'm extremely competent and if I am making my work visible, and that's what I've been doing across. See, I'm an entrepreneur, which means I have to get businesses for my, training and recruitment. But I've been able to do it without what you call the typical selling and over projection, and I've done that for 25 years, including for my organization. But for that, I have been extremely consistent in my work and also extremely consistent in making the work known to the right people, as a way of communication in my own way, which is in a rather softer and more introvertish way, which too succeeds.
Arul, may I add something to this?
Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Just want to add here, Moushumi, when Arul was talking about projection of work, I just wanted to add here, if you're more worried about what other people think about me, and that takes over what you're actually doing, then that is a problem. Yeah. So line to draw is, if whatever you're doing to project or to sell your work or to get other people to be aware of what you're doing changes into, not that you want them to see your work for what it is, but you want to project, what do you think about me? And that starts taking over the relationship, then that is a problem.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Sir, this is Amartya.
Yeah.
Sir, we generally, differentiate personal life with professional life. So what is your opinion on this? Should we combine them or should we segregate?
Okay, so in terms of values, it has to be the same as far as I'm concerned. So for example, if I have a certain value of authenticity, I cannot make a demarcation between personal and professional. The moment I make that demarcation, the value will never be lived. Okay. But when it comes to competencies, certain skills that I need to build or certain styles, like for example, the way you would communicate or the way you would do things from a work context may be slightly different from others. That's fine. In terms of personal relationships that you have to work and what you want to share or not, those are personal contextual choices. But on a larger perspective, I think value, it needs to be the same. Otherwise, from a work perspective, there could be differences.
Dave, Arun, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah.
Thank you for accepting at short notice.
Yeah. Thank you, and see you, everybody. And
thank you.
thanks,
Thank you.
Atan.